Interest rates are off the charts right now. It's incredibly high and house prices are slowly falling down. So maybe it's a good time to buy. Hi, if you're new here, my name is Carmen. I'm a chartered accountant and a management consultant. I recently purchased a 3x2 landed property in Perth, Australia just last year, 2022, and hopefully my experience can help anyone who's buying their first home. As a disclaimer, I'm no property agent or financial advisor. Everything I shared here is a compilation of the research, professional advice that I've received, so hopefully it helps. Firstly, you want to determine if you're eligible for any first home buyer grants or schemes. I think it's different with every state, but in WA, the FH comprises of the 10K grant and a stamp duty concession. The 10K grant only applies to new homes or when you're building under a certain amount. So definitely check online to see what the threshold is. For house values that are below 430K, you get stamp duty completely waived. But if your house is between 430K to 530K, you get a pro rata discount, which means the higher the home value, the lower the discount.
You can also calculate your stamp duty online using this calculator. For example, you put in the details of the date, the value, whether it's general rate or not, and there you have it.
I personally bought a home that is above 530K and it was an established home as well, which means I didn't get a 10K grant, nor did I get the stamp duty discount. But I was okay with it because I weighed up a few factors, such as the phase that I'm in and just the fact I was looking at pretty long term and this home is going to be a home I live in instead of just an investment property, I suppose. Now next, you want to save up for a deposit. The minimum deposit you actually need is 5%. That said, if you have a deposit that's below 20% of the home value, you will be charged a lender's mortgage insurance or LMI, basically insurance for the bank in case you default. And a lot of people don't know this, but if you are in a certain profession, you can actually have your LMI completely waived. That applies to accountants, to lawyers, medical professionals, to engineers, to military personnel, to police officers. And I personally am a CA, which means I only need 5% and I won't get charged LMI. Once again, awesome. It does depend on the specific lender that you're borrowing from, so check with your mortgage broker. In addition to saving for a deposit, please have a buffer for stamp duty. It is the largest chunk. My stamp duty was just insane. It was almost 20K. And you want to have buffer for legal costs, council rates, LMI if you have any bank fees for when you set up a loan account, home and contents insurance, utility connection fees, at least the basic furniture, I would say. When I first moved in, I only had a fridge, microwave, a washing machine, a bed, a table, all the things that I had from my last home. So, you know, it was very basic, but hey, that's how it is when you first move. It's okay. After considering whether you're eligible for grant and now that you have your deposit saved, it's time to ask a mortgage broker how much can you borrow. My mortgage broker is amazing. He gave me a rundown of how loans work because I have no idea. Also, another thing to note is brokers don't charge you a fee up front. They should let you know that. How they earn is through a commission from the bank when they finally do secure a loan for you from a bank. So the bank pays the mortgage broker, you don't pay them anything. And another key takeaway is how much you can borrow is dependent on your income, your expenses, and your liabilities. I didn't know that. I thought your savings also mattered. Turns out it doesn't. It does in a sense where it will reduce the amount that you need to borrow. There are plenty of calculators nowadays where you can go online, put in the numbers, you know, income, liabilities, all that, and it will give you a rundown of how much you can borrow. I personally would still rely on my mortgage broker. Mortgage broker should also give you a selection of banks that you can choose from, and also what's the best structure for a loan. You could do all fixed, all variable, or half fixed, half variable. I think fixed rates can be really good if the rates are pretty low and you're confident that it won't go any lower. That said, if you are on a fixed rate, they do cap you in terms of what the maximum monthly repayments you can make. However, I think a half fixed and half variable is pretty good if it's a pretty good fixed rate. That's what my friend did, and he calculated that, you know what, within these 3 years, I won't be able to pay out this amount anyway, so I might as well just fix it. Once you figure out how much you can borrow, you can then move on to considering if you're building or buying. They are both very different processes. The building process is obviously a lot longer, a lot more things to consider, but then you get to customize how you want the house to look and materials you want. Whereas building, it is, you know, straight away, it's super quick, and settlement is usually within a month or two, you get the keys. That's really quick. I won't talk about building that much because I didn't build, but if you are buying, you might want to consider obtaining a pre-approval, which is essentially an official letter from the bank conditionally approving how much you can actually borrow after reviewing your documents and your financial situation. I have heard that having a pre-approval makes your offer slightly more competitive. Now that you've sorted out whether you want to build or buy, then you can figure out what type of house will it be. Will it be landed property? Will it be an apartment? Will it be a townhouse? you change the location of your house. It is a personal preference, and I opted for landed property because I find land to be pretty valuable, and I do like having a garden to care for and just having that greenery, having trees, and I personally like it more because it's more private. I lived in apartments before. I wasn't a big fan of people being on top and below me and on the sides. It can be a little bit cramped, but I know people who love it because usually if you're opt for apartments, you could choose to buy closer to the city, which is so much more convenient, and sometimes your apartments come with gym facilities, pool facilities, which is honestly pretty good as well. Lastly, you want to look at your preferred suburb, and preferred suburb you would want to consider convenience, safety. Those are my top two. Probably schools if you have young children. Good schools do drive up the value of the property, and safety as well does determine it. I really wanted somewhere that was safe, so I used the crime rate statistic to figure out what are my preferred suburbs. Now, as a recap of those 4 key things to consider: how much you can borrow, are you buying or building, what type of house is it, and what is your preferred suburb? That is a good framework to follow personally, I think, because it prevents you from going head over heels over something that's completely unaffordable and unrealistic, which is why step 1 is always how much you can borrow, and then you can go into the nitty-gritty of the non-negotiables of a house. For example, I really wanted a garage and I really wanted a 3x2, and it has to be a good and safe suburb. Those are like my non-negotiables. There are a lot of nice to haves that I was happy to forego. You want to figure out what you value, and it's all personal preference. And obviously, in terms of being financially savvy, looking at houses that will continue to go up in value is really important. So I guess personal sharing is you want to be able to identify, is it an A grade property, B grade, or C grade? And that's usually determined by the location. Is it on a really busy road? Is there any recent crime? Google a street of the house that you're planning to buy. And obviously home inspections are awesome because then you can go in and you can have a feel how the build is. Is there going to be a lot of maintenance to be done? Usually you'll find older houses that requires a bit more maintenance to be on the lower value side, and newer houses to be slightly higher in price. I personally didn't want to do any or too much work because it's my first home and I just want to get into a new home. I know that some people would be happy to do a bit of work, but that was just me, and I wanted somewhere that was convenient to the shops, to public transport. So my house is actually like a 7-minute walk to the train station, and it's awesome. There's also Woolies, again another 7-minute walk. Plus it was previously rented out, so I knew for sure that it had a pretty good rental yield. So anyway, after doing all that consideration, getting my pre-approval, I went into serious house hunting mode, and it took me maybe 2 to 3 months of just looking around and seeing houses that I like and houses that I don't like to figure out, okay, I think this is the house to look for. And once I found a home that I really liked, I felt this peace when I just walked in. It was a little bit stressful though because there was competition, and it is such a big decision. It will be the biggest purchase of your life. So yeah, it was stressful because you had to put an offer pretty quick. It had to be an attractive offer. So I ended up putting down an offer that was 6K above the offer price, and I received a call from the property agent to tell me, hey, your offer is accepted, congratulations. I was absolutely over the moon, so happy. And after that, they got me to sign a contract just to secure the offer and pay like 10K to the property agent. And from there on, I just had to contact my mortgage broker and settlement agent to do the legal aspects of the sales process. And that was pretty much it. It was really smooth after that. All I had to do was prepare my funds before settlement date and just wait. I personally think that the property market in Perth is still pretty hot. The borders have opened. There is a massive rental shortage. So a lot of people are still looking to buy homes, which is why there's still a lot of property that's on sale, because I think sellers are pretty confident that they can get pretty good prices. I know that in my suburb anyway, even though I bought last year, there have been houses that have been recently sold on the street that I'm at, and it's at a higher price. So it's a pretty crazy time now. But to answer the question of when is the right time to buy, I think it depends on whether you are ready to buy. If you're ready, then it is a good time. There is ever the best time in the market to buy, and it doesn't matter because if it's a property that you will hold for 10 years, then ultimately it doesn't matter because it will go up in 10 years most of the time. One more resource I want to leave with you is the First Home Buyer podcast. I will link it in the description below, but I really hope my sharing gave you a glimpse of the buying process. Do leave in the comment section any feedback you had, or correct me if I am wrong in any way, because again, no, not an expert. This is really just everything that I've learned, and hopefully it's helped you. I would love to hear from you as well if you've enjoyed this. Hopefully I'll see you in my next video. Bye!
One more thing I did want to add is if you're buying a property in Australia as a non-resident, meaning you're not a citizen or permanent resident, it's unfortunately more difficult. You can buy investment properties and brand new residential real estate, but you need to first apply for permission with the Foreign Investment Review Board, or FIRB.
Once you got permission, you can apply for home loans with only a selection of banks, so I'll personally approach your broker. There is also a foreign tax of 7% on the home value, in addition to higher interest rates. That said, it's still very much possible. I know of your friends where their parents purchased a property in Australia, so definitely don't lose hope.